Having a super weak and sloppy punch, I decided to practice 10,000 jabs. What improvements can sheer repetition make? But also, what problems? Let's find out, but you gotta focus. On the first day, my approach was conditioning through just plain jabbing, but also trying to focus on the form I thought was correct. My goal for this day was to knock out 1,000 reps. How hard could it be? It's just the arm moving out and then back in. Now, as you can see, I was trying to have my right foot follow every punch stepping out, kind of like it says in a lot of those online short tutorials, but as I did many jabs over and over and got a little overzealous, you can obviously see my rhythm fall way off, and I end up looking like this wet noodle. Anyways, on day one, my goal was to hit 1,000 reps by doing 10 sets of 100 jabs. And as the hundreds of reps ticked by, my already bad form continued to get worse and worse. And as you can see, towards rep 800, there's like no twist in the arm. I'm almost just like pumping my fist, but I'm thinking I'm doing it. I'm thinking it's going well. It's funny looking back at this now. And finally, after 10 sets of 100 reps, in between ample breaks, I must add, because of all the lactic acid buildup in my left delt, well, I finally hit rep 1,000. It just took so much longer than I expected. 1,000, baby. My delt's like, it's like super mini pumped. Go ahead and roast. That is an awakening right there. Dude, took over an hour, and I didn't even start the timer until I was into it a little bit. It's just like the lactic acid buildup in the arm is like, that's like next level, dude. I hope I can recover. Yo, look at how like swollen. Like, that's insane. So the day after, I actually took as a rest day because my arm was still feeling very sore and I didn't want to push it too fast and get an injury. Now the very next day, I wanted to knock out my next 1,000 reps. However, I wanted to take a more studious approach. So I watched several tutorials online how to jab, and I tried to matrix mind download the proper technique. And after watching several tutorials and trying to practice along the best I could, I got to pushing out the reps. Yes, still sloppy by many standards, but in my opinion, I can already see improvements from the previous training session. Better turn of the wrist, a little more relaxed, and better weight shifting from the back to the front foot. Now, one thing I noticed watching this in slow motion is I didn't really keep or at least have a tight fist at the end of the punch, but this may improve later on. So sets of 100 reps after sets of 100 reps in the office, an office session. This was actually kind of fun, but it did come in handy because I wanted to check up on my form and just kind of refresh myself in the middle of the session, so I was able to go back to the computer and watch some more tutorials and continue the mind download process. And once again, my arm was getting absolutely exhausted by the end of these 1,000 reps, but I tried my best to power through and tried my best to maintain good form this entire time. Holy moly, look at this uneven shoulder pump, it's crazy. A little bit under an hour there. Is that fitness improvements or am I just... So with a slightly better time than the previous training session, I was encouraged that I might be making some conditioning improvements. Anyways, after this, I took 2 days off of jabbing and returned the next week to hopefully knock out another 1,000 reps. So I actually started this third session back in the office, trying to continue to download more information into my mind. Now, when I did get started with the session, I was tight in the shoulder and like really tight in that elbow region, the brachioradialis region. Oh. Just gotta warm up through it. And that I did. After about 50 reps, things started to feel loose again. In fact, my left arm started to actually feel stronger than it did before. Bro, you should be evening it out. You should be doing the right side just as much as you're doing the left. My right side is my bad shoulder, and I made a pact with myself. I'm like, dude, it's time to just take rehab seriously and heal this thing up. And if I start jabbing with my right, once I get past like 100 reps like I did the last couple of days, like it starts to ache. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's gonna be good. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm probably gonna get super unbalanced, but it's for your entertainment, so you guys can just see what happens when you only do 10,000 on one side and maybe like total 1,000 on this side. So yeah, that's the reasoning. I'm only doing 10,000 on one side this time. Anyways, after 500 reps in my office, I took the next 500 downstairs in the basement and I tried to work on that snap. Now I finished my last couple hundred reps on the heavy bag, and after reviewing the footage, I noticed that that snap that I tried to work on really ended up getting lazy towards the end of these sessions. And while some reps were more decent than others, a lot of them I was kind of more so pushing the bag. But dang, my shoulder was burning. However, this week, unlike the previous 2 sessions, I felt like I was recovering faster, and the very next day, I was zealous enough to knock out the next 1,000 reps. Now, something I started to debate myself on, and feel free to butt in, is I felt like I was really favoring to overreach my jabs and allow my right arm that was guarding my head to slip back a little far. But in doing so, I felt like I could get my jab arm out further. Now, upon watching all these different tutorials, I realized there are a ton of different types of jabs, and there isn't really one right way to do a jab. There's only ways to do it better for specific scenarios. However, I kind of did want more of just a snappy jab where everything was tighter. And well, I just felt like I was really favoring length over anything else. Anyways, you can really see in doing so, I'm leaving myself really open to a left counter. Not that it really matters for what I'm doing, but you know, I want to try to do things right. All right, me versus Bob, let's go. Don't telegraph. Now the very next day, my 5th training day, after reviewing the footage, I was realizing my jabs were starting to look more solid, snappier, and quicker. One thing that contributed to this more clean look was focusing on bringing my arm back to the starting position faster. At first, I wasn't really paying too much attention to this, and my jabs looked more like pushing. But after making contact with the target, thinking about almost like trampolining off and bringing that arm back to that start position made the jabs look a lot snappier. But still, towards the last 200 reps or so, I did slow down quite a bit. However, my time at knocking out 1,000 jabs was getting a lot quicker. Cutting down on that time. So I'm taking less reps, I'm recovering faster, I'm taking less reps in between. I think I'm making improvements, but like at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of flaws still, so. But yeah, I still have to tackle this 5,000 reps left before we hit 10,000, so we have a whole nother half to go. I'm gonna try to dial in though, really work on form. And yeah, hopefully by the end of this, we can see some serious improvements. Next day, trying to take in more information and knock out another 1,000 reps. Focusing on bringing the jab arm back to position, also focusing on trying to keep the right arm in the guarded position without reaching out too far, making myself vulnerable. So kind of working on more of a closer range type of a jab. However, towards the end, you can see I just naturally wanted to favor more of this like lean with the upper body jab, which even though maybe I was getting like an extra inch of reach was causing me to lose power and wasn't exactly what I wanted. I took 3 days off after that one. Before I was going like this. The next week, I really tried to dial in form and technique. I started the sessions by slowing down my punches and trying to think about everything else going on, which would be probably too much to think about in a fast-paced scenario, but I was hoping with all this repetitious practice that all of these new things would become reflex. Dude. Oh, the gel. Yes, I wore the same outfit 2 days in a row, but don't worry, I made it through the washer and dryer in between, I promise. Another thing I started to do was try to add in more combinations while trying to keep good form. I know it's still very sloppy, of course. But this just made it a little bit more fun and started to help my body become a little bit more balanced because I was doing like 90% of my training all just left side jabs. Now at the end of week 3, I was at the point where I only had 2,000 reps left before I hit 10,000 punches. But trying to lean more towards quality, I took the weekend off to rest and recover, and returning to my final 2,000 punches in the final week, I wanted to try my best to continue to improve technique. So back to the office to dial in the mind, I watched more tutorials, tried to replicate the form on some of the best ones, and I noticed things were looking more fluid. Honestly, I feel like I gathered some of the most improvements with these office sessions. My jabs were looking way snappier, I felt like I was telegraphing the jab way less, but also physiologically, I felt like I was getting way less fatigued and was maintaining my jab speed several hundred reps in. So yeah, still a ton of flaws, but looking way better than the beginning in my opinion. Now, messing around with all these combos and trying to switch things up, getting a little overzealous, something I kind of ran into was I started to overuse my right arm, and my messed up shoulder kind of started to ache, so oops. Oh, wait a minute, no over 9,000 celebration? Come on, bro. Anyways, getting serious, it was the final 1,000 reps before I would hit 10,000. I wanted to try to lock in everything the best I could. So with the lights dimmed, for some reason that made me feel more serious, I gave it my maximal effort and powered through. Now when it came to the conditioning, I felt like I soared through this last 1,000 reps. I got way less fatigued, my left arm held up perfectly fine, and I felt like I could actually keep going. Now, one unfortunate thing that I really didn't start working on until, well, basically the last 1,000 reps was this improved footwork where I essentially move forward with the feet and the whole entire body and then retreat backwards, giving me an extra couple of inches on my reach, but then bringing me back out of reach. Something I probably should have been focusing on more the entire time that would have probably led to way better improvements. However, better late than never, right? And also keep in mind, something that I did learn is there's just so many different types of jabs, and while maybe I didn't work on this one, I was able to work on the motion of the arm moving, improving my speed, snappiness, power over those several thousand reps I did before, which I felt like made serious improvements to my fitness and motor control. Regardless, we were finally there. 10,000 reps. Feels different, but similar every time. One thing's for certain, my time finishing this has gotten faster. I'm gonna take some rest to recover, and then I'm gonna try to sample and compare. 2 days later, in the relaxed position, you can see the major imbalance taking place in the shoulders. My left shoulder and in fact arm looking significantly bigger than my right. Now comparing jabs from day 1 to after the 10,000 jabs, you can see major improvements, especially as I got towards the end of each set of 100. Silly enough, however, after reviewing this footage, I think some of my best reps came during the office session between 8,000 and 9,000 punches. Then again, sometimes improvement comes in waves, and doesn't always mean at the end of 10,000 reps I'm going to be performing as good as I did sometime during. Let me know your thoughts, stay tuned, more videos coming out. Hope you all have a great day, peace, I will see you all in the next video.